In section 4.3, we learn how to multiply decimal numbers and decimal notation. And then later on we learn convert notation from like 45.7 million to standard notation and convert also between dollars and cents. But it's all based on multiplication. So here's how it works. To multiply two decimals, for example, 0.8 times 0.43, ignore the decimal points and multiply as though both factors were whole numbers. This is important. So you multiply 43 times 8, so 3 times 8 is 24, carry 2, 4 times 8 is 34, 2 plus 2 is 34. So here's the result, 344. Now the first number has 2 decimal places, the second number has 1 decimal place, altogether 3 decimal places, so you move it 1, 2, 3, and so it's 0.344. That would be the answer. And of course, count places from the right. 1, 2, 3 places. For exercise number 1, we multiply 2 times 4 is 8. 2 times 5 is 10, carry 1. 2 times 8 is 16, plus 1 is 17. Then 6 times 4 is 24, carry 2. 6 times 5 is 30, plus 2 is 32, carry 3. 6 times 8 is 48, plus 3 is 51. So now we add these numbers, and so 8 plus 0 is 8, 0 plus 4 is 4, 7 plus 2 is 9, 1 plus 1 is 2, and then there's a 5. And since there are 1 decimal place here and 1 decimal place there, we move the decimal 1, 2 places. In other words, the answer would be 529.48 by moving the decimal 1, 2 places. Similarly, for exercise number 2, 1 times 4 is 4, 1 times 3 is 3, 1 times 2 is 2, 1 times 1 is 1. 4 times 4 is 16, carry 1. 4 times 3 is 12, plus 1 is 13. Carry 1. 4 times 2 is 8, plus 1 is 9. And 1 times 4 is 4. We add these together. We've got 4, 9, 5. 1 plus 9 is 10, carry 1 would be a 5. And now how many decimal places do we have? We have got 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 decimal places. Therefore we move the decimal 1, 2, 3, 4. So the decimal goes between the 5 and the 0. This is the answer, 5.0594. In exercise number 3, the guided solution, we multiply 42.65 times 0.804. So we arrange it vertically. And so we multiply 4 times 5 is 20. 0, carry 2. 4 times 6 is 24, plus 2. The carry is 26, carry 2. 4 times 2 is 8, plus carry 2 is 10. To carry 1. And then 4 times 4 is 16. And the 1 makes it a 17. Now we move over 2 places because we multiply by 8 now. So 0, 0. And 8 times 5 is 40. There's a 0 here, carry 4. 8 times 6 is 48, plus 4 is 52, carry 5. 8 times 2 is 16, plus 5 is 21, carry 2. 8 times 4 is 32, plus the carry of 2 makes it 34. So now when we add, 0 plus 0 is 0, and 6 plus 0 is 6. And 0 plus 0 is 0, and 7 plus 2 is 9, 1 plus 1 is 2. Therefore, the answer is 34,000.2906. We don't need the last zero. So we can write this as 34.2906. Multiplying any number by 0.1, 0.01, 0.001, and so on is really easy. You simply count the number of decimal places in the tenths, hundreds or thousands, and so on, and then move the decimal point in the number that many places to the left. For instance, when we multiply 0.001 times 34.45678, we have 3 decimal places. Therefore, we move the decimal place, the decimal here, 3 places to the left. That means we have to add place a 0 in front of the 3, so we have 3 decimal places to move it to. So therefore, the answer is 0.03445678 for multiplying these two numbers together. So it's really simple. Simply move the decimal as many places as you have decimals. In exercise 4, we multiply 0.1 times 3.48. So we have 1 decimal. We moved the decimal point 1 to the left. So the answer is 0.348. We moved the decimal point from this position to this position because we're multiplying by 0.1. It's 1 decimal. In exercise number 5, 0.01 times 3.48, 0.01 times 3.48. We are moving the decimal 2 places because we have 2 decimals. So we have 3.48. So the decimal was here. We move it 2 places. So therefore it becomes 0.0348. Remember, the decimal was between the 3 and the 4. We move it 2 places. So it becomes 0.0348. And similarly, in exercise number 6, we have 3 decimals for the 1, so we move the decimal point 3 places, so 0.001 times 3.48, write 348. Remember, the decimal was between the 3 and the 4, so we need to add 2 zeros to move it from here to 1, 2, 3 places. And number 7 is only different because it's 1 additional decimal, 0.0001 times 3.48. So we write 348, we put some zeros in front. And remember, we need to move the decimal 4 places, and it was between the 3 and the 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Now to multiply any number by 10, 100, 1000, and so on is also quite simple. In this case, we count the number of zeros, for example, 1000 times 34.45678, and then move the decimal point in the number that many places to the right. So in other words, there are 3 zeros here, and we move the decimal from between the 4 and the 4, move it 3 places between the 6 and the 7. That's it. So it's really simple to multiply a number by 10 or 100 or 1,000 or 10,000 or 100,000. Really straightforward. So let's do some examples. So here, 10 times 3.48, we have 1 0. So it means we move the decimal 1 to the right, 1 position to the right, so it becomes 34.8. We moved it from between the 3 and the 4 to the 4 and between the 4 and the 8. Now, in the next exercise, number 9, we multiply by 100, so there are 2 zeros. So we need to move the decimal 2 places to the right. In other words, it goes right after the 8. So in other words, that's simply 348. We typically would not write 348.0. We could, but that's not typical. In exercise number 10, there are 3 zeros, so we need to move the decimal 3 places to the right. So we have 3, 4, 8. So remember the decimals between the 3 and the 4 originally. Now move it 3 places to the right. So we need to add a 0 here, so we can move it 3 places to the right. And so the answer is 3,480. This is an 8. And for number 11, here we have 4 zeros, so we need to move the decimal between the 3 and the 4 places to the right. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So the answer is 34,800. Part B is about naming large numbers in money conversion. And the large numbers you're probably familiar with, like 100. We have 2 zeros, which is 10 times 10, or 10 to the second power. Or 1,000, we have 3 zeros, which is 10 times 10 times 10, or 10 to the third power with 3 zeros, etc. So when we have a million, we have a 1 followed by 6 zeros. That's 10 times 10 times 10 times 10 times 10 times 10, or 10 to the 6. And then 1 billion has 9 zeros, or 10 to the 9s. And then 1 trillion has 12 zeros, or 10 to the 12. And trillion, of course, has shown up in the news lately when people talk about $1 trillion budgets or deficits or whatever. So the numbers are phenomenal. 1 followed by 12 zeros. That's pretty amazing. To give you an idea how big a billion is, 1 billion seconds ago, there was about 31.7 years ago, or about 32 years, is about a billion seconds. But a trillion seconds is about 31,700 years, so it's about 32,000 years, about when recorded history began or way before. So a trillion, if you spend $1 trillion, $1 a second, that'll go back 32,000 years. So these are huge numbers. See, in exercise 12, we are asked to convert the number to standard notation. It says the largest building in the world is the Pentagon, which is 3.7 million square feet of floor space. So what does 3.7 million mean? It means 3.7 times 1 million. And that's equal to 3.7 times. So we move the decimal 6 zeros, 6 places to the right. This will then become 3,700,000 square feet. It would be in standard notation compared to 3.7 million. 3,700,000 square feet of floor space. Similarly, in number 13, spending on healthcare, the United States spent $3.2 trillion in healthcare in 2015. It means the same thing, 3.2 times 1 trillion. And remember, that's a 1 followed by 12 zeros. 3.2 times 1. So we need to move the decimal 12 places to the right. So that number will be so that's the number in standard notation, 3.2 trillion. Now we're going to learn how to convert dollars to cents, and that's a very simple process. You move the decimal point 2 places to the right and change the dollar sign in front of to a cent sign at the end. For example, $15.69 means 15.69 times $1. And since $1 is 100 cents, we multiply by 100. So it means we move the decimal point 2 places to the right, would be 1,569 cents. Number 15 is very similar to the previous example. That's equal to 0.17 times $1. That's equal to 0.17 or 0.17 times 100. So move the decimal 2 places to the right, and it's equal to 17 cents. When we go in the other direction and convert cents to dollars, we move the decimal point 2 places to the left and change the cent sign at the end to a dollar sign in front. For instance, 35 cents. So 35 cents means 35 times 1 cent. That means 35 times 0.01 dollar. So we move the decimal point 2 places to the left, and so this then becomes 0.35 dollars. For a similar example, 577 cents. 577 cents means 577 times 1 cent equals 577 times $0.01. So move the decimal 2 places to the left. It becomes 577. And then put a $sign in front. And this is the end of section 4.3.